Hey everyone, welcome back. My name is Jack Carter, and this is Easy English Podcast, the show where we make English simple, one small step at a time. If you're new here, hi, I'm really glad you found this channel. And if you've been here before, thank you, genuinely, for coming back. That means more than you know, and honestly, it's the reason I keep making these episodes. Today's episode is a long one, and I want to tell you up front why I'm taking my time with this topic instead of rushing through it in 5 minutes. Because the truth is, the idea I'm about to share with you isn't really about English. It's about how you spend the first 15 minutes of your day, and how those 15 minutes quietly decide what kind of day, and honestly, what kind of year you end up having. So settle in, get comfortable, maybe grab your coffee or your tea, because we're going to go deep today. Take a breath. And let me start with a story, because I think you need to hear this before anything else. When I was in school, I failed my English exam. Not once, not twice, 12 times. I want you to actually sit with that number for a second, because I think it's easy to hear 12 times and just move past it like it's a small detail. It wasn't small. It was years. Years of sitting in the same classroom, watching other students move forward while I stayed exactly where I was. Every single time I failed, I told myself the same thing. Study harder, study longer, memorize more. So that's exactly what I did. More books, more flashcards, more hours at my desk, more weekends I could have spent doing literally anything else. And I still failed. Again and again. But honestly, the failing wasn't even the worst part. The worst part was this quiet voice in my head that kept whispering, maybe English just isn't for me. Maybe some people are wired for languages, and I'm not one of them. Maybe my brain just doesn't work that way. And once that voice starts talking, it doesn't stay quiet for long. It starts showing up everywhere. Job interviews where I avoided speaking English at all costs. Conversations with foreigners where I'd just nod and smile instead of trying. Opportunities I didn't even apply for because some part of me had already decided I wasn't the kind of person who could do this. I think some of you know that voice. Maybe it's been talking to you for years too. Maybe it shows up right before a meeting, or when someone asks you a question in English and your mind goes completely blank, or when you watch a movie without subtitles and catch maybe 30% of what's being said. I want to tell you something directly, and I want you to really hear it. That voice is lying to you. You're not bad at English. You just haven't found the right method yet. And today, I'm going to hand you the exact one that finally worked for me. The one that took me from someone who failed an exam 12 times to someone who now makes an entire podcast in English every single week. Now here's the thing. Most people get wrong before we even get into the method. And I think this is actually the most important part of this whole episode, even more important than the 5 habits themselves. Most people believe that getting better at English requires more time. I'm too busy this week. I'll start on the weekend. Sound familiar? I used to say that too. I said it for years, actually. I had a whole collection of phrases I'd use to push it off. Once this project at work calms down. Once the kids go back to school. Once I get through this busy season. And here's what I learned the hard way. After saying these things for far too long, the weekend never actually arrives empty. Next month is just as full as this one. Life doesn't get calmer. It just gets different. There's always going to be a new busy season. There's always going to be a reason to wait. And the moment you're waiting for, that mythical calm period where you finally have hours of free time to dedicate to studying, it doesn't exist. I waited for it for almost a decade. It never came. So the real answer isn't more time. The real answer is a different time. And specifically, I'm talking about your morning. Not because mornings are magical or because I'm one of those people who believes waking up at 5 a.m. makes you a better human being. I don't believe that, honestly. I'm talking about your morning because of something much more practical and much more biological. Here's why mornings are different. And this isn't just motivational talk. There's actual brain science behind it. Right when you wake up, your brain is still half asleep, drifting between rest and full alertness. This is sometimes called the hypnopompic state, the transition zone between sleeping and being fully awake. Researchers describe this window as one of the most receptive states for learning because your mind hasn't been flooded yet with stress, emails, decisions, and noise. Your cortisol levels, the stress hormone, are relatively low. Your working memory hasn't been used up yet on 100 small decisions like what to wear, what to eat, how to respond to that email from your boss. It's clean. It's quiet. It's available. Think of your brain like a sponge. First thing in the morning, that sponge is completely dry and ready to soak everything up. By 9 at night, after a full day of thinking and problem solving and making decisions and absorbing information from every direction, that same sponge is already saturated. It can't absorb much more. You could sit down with the best textbook in the world at 10 p.m., and your brain simply won't retain it the same way. So 15 minutes of English in the morning hits differently than 15 minutes at night. Same effort, same time, but the morning version goes deeper and it sticks longer. So when I say use your morning, I don't just mean it's convenient, though it is. I mean your brain is biologically more open to learning in those first few minutes than at almost any other point in your day. You're not fighting against your own biology anymore. You're working with it. Before I give you the 5 habits, I want to share one idea that makes all of them actually stick. Because without this, you'll try for 3 days and quit, just like I did the first 5 or 6 times I tried to build a new routine. It's called habit stacking, and once you understand it, you'll start seeing it everywhere in your life. Building a brand new habit from zero is hard. You need to remember it. You need motivation. And some mornings, motivation simply doesn't show up. You wake up tired or stressed about something at work, or you just had a bad night's sleep. And on those mornings, any habit that depends on motivation alone is going to lose. Every single time. But there's an easier way. Instead of creating something new and separate, floating out there on its own with nothing holding it up, you attach your English practice to something you're already doing automatically, every single day, without thinking. Brushing your teeth, making coffee, putting your shoes on at the door, checking your bag before you leave. These are anchors. They're already locked into your routine. They happen whether you're motivated or not, whether you're tired or energized, whether it's Monday or Saturday. And once you attach a new habit to an anchor, you stop needing willpower, because the anchor pulls the habit along with it like a trailer hitched to a truck. That's exactly how each of these 5 habits is built, and that's exactly why they work, even on the mornings when you have absolutely zero motivation to do anything at all. I also want to mention something here, because I think it matters. A lot of language learning advice out there focuses on intensity, 2-hour study sessions, weekend immersion days, big dramatic pushes. And those things aren't bad, but they're fragile. They require a specific mood, a specific amount of free time, a specific kind of energy. What I'm giving you today is the opposite. It's small. It's almost boring, honestly. But it's incredibly durable, because it doesn't depend on you having a good day. It depends on things you're doing anyway. All right, let's get into the 5 habits. The first habit, I call it name it, and it starts the second you open your eyes, while you're still lying in bed. Stay there for 1 more minute. That's allowed. I actually encourage it. But use that minute. Look around your room and start naming what you see, out loud or in your head, whichever feels more comfortable to you. Pillow, window, lamp, closet door, curtain. That's it. Sounds almost too simple to matter, right? I thought the same thing the first time I tried it. Here's why it works, though. In those first foggy minutes after waking, whatever language hits your brain first is the language your brain wakes up speaking. If you reach for your phone and scroll messages in your native language, or check the news, or look at social media in your first language, your brain locks into that language for the rest of the morning. It's already decided which mode it's in before you've even gotten out of bed. But if the very first words you hear, even just inside your own head, are English words, your brain shifts into what I call English mode. And once that mode is on, everything you do afterward in English feels noticeably easier, smoother, less like translation and more like thinking. If naming objects feels too basic after a few days, and it probably will, level it up into short sentences. My window is open. This blanket is warm. The lamp on my nightstand is yellow. Subject, verb, simple description. Nothing complicated. And try learning just 1 new word a day this way. something physical you can see every morning. Monday, you learn curtain. Tuesday, ceiling. Wednesday, alarm clock. By the end of the month, that's 30 new words. And here's the part that makes them different from words you'd learn off a flashcard. These words are tied to something real, something you physically see every single morning of your life. Words tied to something real in front of your eyes are words your brain almost never forgets, because your brain isn't storing an abstract symbol. It's storing a memory with a picture attached to it. The second habit is mirror talk, and this one happens while you're brushing your teeth or washing your face. You're already standing in front of a mirror, so use it. Don't waste those 2 minutes. Look at yourself and speak out loud in English about your plans for the day. Today I have a call at 11. I'm meeting a friend for lunch. I need to finish that report before 3. 2 or 3 sentences, 20 seconds, done. Sounds small. It is small. But here's why this matters more than it sounds like it should. Most people who struggle with English don't actually lack vocabulary or grammar knowledge. I want to repeat that because I think it's the single most misunderstood thing about language learning. Most people who feel stuck already know more English than they think. What actually happens is they freeze the moment they need to speak out loud, because speaking feels like a test someone might judge. There's a real, physical fear response that happens in your body when you have to produce language in front of another person. Your heart rate goes up slightly. Your mind starts scanning for mistakes before you've even said anything. That fear is the actual barrier, far more than vocabulary ever is. Mirror talk removes the audience entirely. Nobody's listening. Nobody's grading you. It's just your own face looking back at you. Yes, the first few mornings will feel a little ridiculous. You might even laugh at yourself, and that's completely normal. I remember the first time I tried this. I genuinely felt embarrassed, standing there talking to my own reflection, and I almost stopped. But that awkwardness just means you're doing something new, and new things always feel strange before they feel natural. Stick with it for a week, and your own English voice will stop sounding foreign to you, which is honestly where real confidence comes from. Not from knowing more words, but from getting used to the sound of yourself saying them over and over until it just feels like your voice. One small extra tip here. Once mirror talk starts feeling easy, add your emotions into it, not just your schedule. I feel a little nervous about today. I feel good. I slept well. This matters because emotional vocabulary is some of the most useful, most human language you'll ever use. And most learners never practice it because textbooks rarely teach it. When someone asks you, "How are you?" in real life, and you can answer with something true and specific instead of just "fine," that's the moment you stop sounding like a student and start sounding like a person. The third habit is breakfast English, and it might be my favorite because it involves food. And honestly, who doesn't love an excuse to think more about food? While you're eating or waiting on your coffee, describe what's in front of you out loud. This coffee is too hot. The toast is crunchy. I'm starving. Simple, real sentences about real things sitting right in front of you. The reason this sticks so well comes down to memory science. When you learn a word like crunchy from a vocabulary list, sitting in a classroom, or scrolling an app, your brain files it away as an abstract symbol, easy to forget, easy to lose within a week. But when you say crunchy, while you're actually biting into something crunchy, tasting it, hearing the sound it makes, your brain attaches that word to a full sensory experience. And sensory memories are some of the strongest memories your brain forms, full stop. This is why you never forget the word for your favorite childhood food in any language, even decades later. You've tasted it. You've lived it. It's not abstract anymore. Try picking 3 or 4 new food or feeling words each week and using them daily at breakfast. Week 1, crispy, creamy, bitter, sweet. Week 2, fresh, warm, rich, sour. Week 3, spicy, smooth, salty, savory. By the end of a month, you'll have over a dozen words that feel completely natural because you didn't memorize them sitting at a desk. You live them sitting at your kitchen table. And don't stop at just describing food. Use this time to describe how you're feeling too. I feel calm this morning. I'm a little tired, but okay. Practicing emotional language at breakfast, alongside sensory language, builds a kind of vocabulary that most courses completely skip over, and it's exactly the vocabulary you'll actually need in real conversations. The fourth habit is the 5-minute listen, and this one is for your ears specifically. Before you head out the door, put your headphones in and listen to something in English for 5 minutes. A podcast, a short video, a song, a clip from a show, genuinely whatever you enjoy, because enjoyment matters here more than difficulty level. But here's the one rule that makes this habit actually work, and without this rule, it's just background noise. Don't just listen, repeat. When a sentence catches your attention, pause it and say it back out loud, copying the rhythm and the tone, not analyzing the grammar, not thinking about it too hard, just copying the sound, almost like you're an actor rehearsing a line. This technique is called shadowing, and it's one of the most powerful tools in language learning because it trains your mouth and your ears at the same time, which is something passive listening alone never does. When you shadow a sentence, 3 things happen simultaneously. Your mouth learns to physically produce English sounds it might not be used to making. Your ear gets better at recognizing the rhythm and stress patterns of natural English, which is honestly half the battle in understanding native speakers. And your brain starts linking the sound of the sentence to the feeling of producing it yourself, which means later, in a real conversation, that sentence is far more likely to come out naturally, without you having to search for it in your head. And if you're worried because you only understand half of what you hear, maybe even less, that's not failure. I want to be really clear about this because I know how discouraging it feels. That's exactly where you're supposed to be. Your brain is still absorbing rhythm and pattern, even when it doesn't catch every individual word. And that groundwork, even when it feels invisible, is exactly what makes next week's listening easier than this week's. Don't quit because it's hard. Hard, in this context, is just the feeling of your brain actually growing. The 5th and final habit is 1 sentence out the door. Right before you leave the house, pause at the door, take 1 breath, and say 1 sentence in English, 1 intention for the day. Today I won't be afraid to make mistakes. Today I'll listen carefully. Today I'll speak, even if I feel nervous. It doesn't matter exactly which sentence you choose. What matters is saying it with a little bit of belief before you actually open that door. It sounds small, but it's doing 2 things at once. You're practicing English. Sure, that's the obvious part. But you're also telling yourself a story about who you are. And I think that second part is actually more important than the English itself. There's a real difference between someone who says, "I'm trying to learn English," and someone who says, "I am an English learner." Read those 2 sentences again, slowly, because they sound almost identical, but they're built completely differently. The first person is waiting for some future moment to feel ready, some point where they'll finally deserve the label. The second person has already decided. They've already claimed the identity, today, right now, regardless of their current level. And once something becomes part of your identity, part of who you genuinely believe you are, you stop needing motivation to keep doing it. The same way you don't need motivation to brush your teeth every morning. You just do it, because that's who you are. Not because you talked yourself into it that particular day. Every morning you say that 1 sentence at the door, you're practicing that identity a little more. And slowly, quietly, it becomes true. Not because you suddenly got more talented, but because of repetition and because of who you choose to be, 1 small sentence at a time. Now I want to address something, because I know some of you are listening to all this and thinking, this sounds nice, but will 5 small things every morning actually move the needle? Let me give you the math, because I think numbers make this more convincing than just enthusiasm. 15 minutes a day, every day, for 1 year is over 90 hours of focused English practice. 90 hours. And that's not 90 hours of passive scrolling or half-attentive studying. That's 90 hours of active speaking, active listening, active vocabulary use, tied directly to your real life. Compare that to someone who tells themselves they'll do a big 2-hour session when they have time, and ends up doing it maybe once a month, if that. That person gets 24 hours a year, scattered, inconsistent, and honestly, mostly forgotten by the next session because there's no repetition holding it together. Small and consistent beats, big and occasional, every single time, in every single skill, not just language. So let's put the whole morning together. so you can hear what it actually sounds like as one flowing routine rather than 5 separate items on a list. You wake up, eyes still half closed, and you name what's around you. Pillow, window, lamp. The room is quiet. The morning is cool. You get up, walk to the bathroom, look in the mirror, and say, "Today I have a meeting at 10, and I'm going to handle it well. I feel a little nervous, but that's okay." You head to the kitchen, pour your coffee, and say, "This is strong, and I need it this morning." You eat your toast. It's crunchy. You're hungry. Good. You put your headphones in. You catch a sentence you like from whatever you're listening to. You pause. You repeat it, copying the rhythm exactly. And right before you step outside, you stop at the door. You breathe, and you say, "Today I'll speak with confidence, even if it's not perfect." Then you open the door and you go. That entire morning took maybe 10 to 15 minutes. No textbook, no desk, no course you had to pay for, no app notification reminding you that you're behind on your streak. Just your brain, waking up already, speaking English, already warmed up, already ready, before the rest of your day even officially starts. I want to be honest with you before we wrap up, because I think honesty matters more than motivation here. There will be mornings you skip all of this completely. You'll wake up late, or stressed, or just not in the mood. And that's real life. That's not failure. And I don't want you carrying guilt about it. One missed morning is just rest. Your brain needed it. Your body needed it. That's fine. The only rule worth holding on to, the one rule I actually want you to remember out of this entire episode, if you remember nothing else, is this: never miss 2 mornings in a row. If tomorrow slips by, just come back the next day, even if all you do is name 3 things in your room. That's enough to keep the habit alive, and a habit that's still alive, even in its smallest possible form, will always grow back into something strong. I failed that exam 12 times. I know exactly what it feels like to try and fall short and try again anyway, year after year, wondering if it would ever actually click. And I also know what it feels like when something finally does click, not in one dramatic, cinematic moment like in the movies, but quietly, morning by morning, almost invisibly, until one day you look back and realize you've changed, and you can't even pinpoint exactly when it happened. You don't need more talent. I promise you that. You don't need more time either. You genuinely don't. You need tomorrow morning and 5 small things you already do, just done in English. If this helped you, send it to one friend who's learning English too, because honestly, this stuff sticks better when you're not doing it completely alone, when someone else is doing it alongside you, and you can compare notes or just laugh together about how strange mirror talk feels the first time. And if you want more episodes like this, hit subscribe so you don't miss the next one, because I've got a lot more of these small, practical routines coming. I'll see you very soon. Until then, keep going, keep practicing, even imperfectly, even on the tired mornings. Every morning is a new chance, and yours starts tomorrow.